Our next speaker is Luca Rainone. He's a freelance, and he will talk about designing open source tools for citizen coders. So very curious to see how to empower non-professional developers to drive innovation. Luca.
Exactly. Thank you, Martin. So before starting the core, let's agree on some definition. What is a citizen coder? A citizen coder is someone with little experience in formal coding, IT, or computer science. They work as a hobbyist or maybe as employee of other company, non-tech companies, and they are able to write software in some way, maybe thanks to low-code tools and other kind of tools, maybe some scripts, in order to meet specific business requirements. So think about maybe some archaeologists that used to write some software, sign some scripts, or a lawyer that writes some scripts to make something that is useful for their job. I know that the little developer inside you maybe is thinking, no, it is better that these people stay away from me because we are professional, this is a complex thing. But before answering this objection, I would like to take a look in the past. In the 1960s, John Kemeny and Thomas Kurtz invented the language BASIC, that is the acronym of Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. Their idea is that anyone with interest should be able to instruct a computer. So not just use a computer, but also instruct a computer. And they wrote BASIC upon these 8 principles that, if you read carefully, it's also, they are valid also nowadays, also today. Why a software should be not easy for beginners, why it should not be interactive, or why should not provide friendly error messages. So why I'm here? I'm a software architect with almost 20 years of experience, and I am a co-host of an Italian developer podcast called Gitbar. And we have a community of 1,500 members that are developers. So why it is important? Because one time we did an episode talking about a low-code tool. And after this episode, I was contacted by an archaeologist, and she asked me some specific question about programming, and I discovered that she built an entire back office upon this low-code tool, writing also some piece of code. So she was actually a developer, but she was not a professional developer. She was, we can call it a citizen coder. So I was surprised, and I asked to myself, okay, how many silent citizen coders are in the world? So I have a community. I started to make a survey. And I discovered that 14% of our community that I believed was only professional developer was non-professional developers. And more than half of professional developers know somebody that is currently a citizen coder. And the majority of them write code in some way for their primary job. And some people also like hobbyists. Okay, this is maybe not statistically significant, but if we take a look also at some more big survey, I took the developer survey of Stack Overflow. We can see that the numbers, the percentage are coherent with my survey. So almost 15% of people that answered to this survey declared is not a professional developer. And many of them also, a lot of also professional developer works as hobbyist. So I realized that they exist and they are many. What we can do? We can ignore them, of course, and live our life like before, we can fight them or we can take opportunity for them. We can value them. We can fight citizen coder. Sometimes makes sense. Our open source project require a high control quality, and we need specialized expertise and standards. In this case, it is better to raise barrier and avoiding to wasting time, maybe to have some pull requests not well written and so on. And or maybe you can force to have a code coverage of 100%, for example. And if it is a citizen coder that is able to jump this barrier, I don't see the problem. Or we can value them so we can lower these barriers and design the entire project in order to take the opportunity to have people that are not professional developers but are able to contribute to our project. Sometimes they need some guide on it. So we need to provide documentations, tutorial, we can link resources in order to encourage contribution and simplifying, in the end, the onboard process. Ignoring them, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. This is, in the end, it's a great opportunity to improve the developer experience of the whole project, because in open source project, we want to have contribution by people that actually use our project. And we should do this. We should allow people to contribute to our project. And this, we don't need to underestimate, because according also with the developer survey of Stack Overflow of this year, the 33% of developers are frustrated by the complexity of the stack for the building and for the deployment of the project. So the developer experience is something that is important. We take opportunity from citizen coder that in order to simplify the contribution to our project, because they exist, we cannot simply ignore them. So this is, in the end, a big excuse to talk about the developer experience, to take care of the experience of the development of our project. There is no magic wand or magic tricks in order to increase the development experience, but in the end, it's all about the complexity. So let's separate the complexity of our project and make it only for professional developers, and the other stuff that can extend the potential of our software, of our open source project, make accessible to all citizen coders and also professional developers that maybe are not familiar with the technological stack that we use. And of course, documentation, provide README files and in a way that is more inclusive possible. Yes, in GitHub we have a moment when we suggest some tools or something that has engaged our attention. Before we call it the Paese dei Balocchi, or land of toy. We, with guests and other hosts, suggest something. It's a nice opportunity also to make the same thing now. The first is to use a best README template for your open source project, and there is one repository when you can find this. But the other thing is more interesting is the first contributions. This is a link that explains how to contribute to your open source project. You don't need to explain in your README files how to contribute, but you can just link maybe this project this repository to your README. Another thing is nice is Fastify. Fastify is a web server in Node.js. It's like Express, but this is not the real toy. The real toy is how they involve people on their project. If you try to open an issue on Fastify, the first answer is, okay, thank you, please, a PR is welcomed. Or thanks for reporting, send a pull request and don't forget to add the unit test. Of course, in a nicer way, but the result actually is pretty good because it seems that it works. Other toy that could be useful is to this repository C4PlantUML that help you to build the diagrams following the C4 model for visualizing architecture. Of course, in your README files or whatever, in your documentation, it's useless to have a big layer of a big overview of the project and then go inside in the details. Following the model of C4, you can do it easily. And thanks to this library, you can build diagrams simply with code. That is an advantage because you can commit your code, and then you can also have all the history of this documentation. This is the tool that we talked about before. It's called Directus. It's like Strapi, but the big advantage is that you are not forced to use it from scratch. You can link Directus on existent database, on existent application. It's a low code. Anyone can use it, but professional developer can extend via plugin or components. It provides you an API to your database and a back office, like in the end, like Strapi. This is the last. It's a great book that's called The Philosophy of Software Design. This takes you the opportunity to manage the complexity of your project. You cannot, of course, you cannot learn to zero the complexity, but you have to manage in some way. This book was suggested in one episode from the creator of Redis, and I read it, and it's very, very mind-blowing for managing complexity, seeing the cause, seeing what is the best way to make your software more accessible. And that's all.
Thank you very much, Luca. Are there any questions from the audience? There's one.
I think it's a quite obvious question. I don't know if you know GitHub Copilot or Code.eum. I want to ask you, what do you think about these tools helping citizen coder to understand the code, first, and second, to write the code?
This is a great question. That is actually a slide that I jump because maybe I was feared to don't have time to do it. And it was actually this one. This is for individual contributor, all professional citizen coder. Then when they have a problem, what they do, the 55% search on Google or whatever, 18% ask to a coworker, and the other 76% ask to a-power the search. These are, you cannot see, but one is free and the other is under payment. So you can take opportunity to hold your documentation, put it in a RAG system or plug-in chatbot powered by AI, and give this chatbot in the end for citizen coder, of course, also professional coders. For writing code with AI, he said is more complex for not experienced professional developer.
Thank you.